When your animal companion's been showing signs that maybe they're not feeling so great, probably one of the first things you're going to do is take them to your veterinarian and find out what's going on. And if it's not obvious just from a thorough history and physical examination, it's very likely that your vet is going to recommend some diagnostic testing. Sometimes that's obviously the right thing to do, and sometimes there may be more gray areas in certain situations. So, I'd like to help you in that latter case and give you a decision making framework to help you make good decisions for you and your pet. Before I get into that, I would just like to point out that we as veterinarians are trained to offer what we call the gold standard of care as the first thing. So we have an ethical obligation to tell you what could be done if time, money, and resources were no limitation at all. You don't necessarily need to do all of those things, but we do need to make you aware of them. But from there, that can be the starting point of a conversation about what is really realistic. So, how do we figure that out? The first thing you want to ask yourself is, what is the information that I am going to gain from this testing and how am I going to use it? So, benefits that you might get from diagnostic testing, finding out what the problem is in your treatment options. It may be just getting an idea of what to expect coming down the line if your pet has a chronic illness, whether or not you pursue certain treatments, just what you can expect in the future. Or you may just need peace of mind. You just may need to know what's going on. Any of those are totally valid reasons. Let me give you an example from my own life. Several years ago, my old Labrador retriever had some chronic health conditions, but he started having seizures, which was something new. And we knew just from his history and his physical signs that on the short list of things was most likely he had a brain tumor. Now, to diagnose a brain tumor, you need to do some pretty advanced imaging like a CT scan or an MRI. And for animal companions, that means they have to go under anesthesia. Also, I knew that I wasn't going to do brain surgery on my elderly Labrador retriever. It was just too much to put him through, considering his other health conditions. And radiation therapy is not an option where I live. So I thought about it, and I really wasn't going to do anything different for him, even if we did get that diagnosis. So I just treated his symptoms and made him comfortable for the time he had left. Now, in contrast, in my early veterinary career, I had a youngish to middle-aged cat who developed this mystery illness, and we really didn't know what was going on. But on our short list were some things that were potentially treatable, and she could live a healthy life for several more years if we could treat those. So for her, it made sense to take her to the specialist, to hospitalize her, to do all the testing because we potentially had a good outcome. The second thing you want to think about is what sacrifices will need to be made to get this information. So, obviously, the most obvious one is financial sacrifices. Is this going to fit within your budget? If it doesn't, what does? I can tell you no veterinarian wants you to miss your rent because you paid for a lot of testing. So, just be upfront about what's doable for you. What is it going to cost in terms of risk? So, is it going to require anesthesia? And is that something that's going to be high risk for your pet or not? What's it going to mean in terms of stress on your pet and you? So, do they get really stressed out when they go to the clinic? Or are they pretty chill about it and doing a lot of testing or treatment isn't going to be a big deal for them? Is it going to be a drain on your energy? Do you have the bandwidth to pursue this? So back to my old lab, he was a super friendly guy, and I can tell you he was equally comfortable in any environment. So taking him in for repeated treatments from a stress point of view wouldn't have been a big deal for him. But for my cat, she was a spicy kitty. She had a reputation wherever I took her. She would get very frightened and she would fight back and was really, really just stressed out whenever she made vet clinic visits. So I can tell you she never would have been like a weekly visit for chemotherapy kind of cat. It just wouldn't have been fair to her. So those are all the things that you need to consider. So I'm hoping with this framework, thinking about what you're going to do with the information that you gain, and also what are the sacrifices that need to be made in exchange for that, and what trade-offs are worth it. I hope that framework gives you a starting point for making good decisions. My name is Carolyn Nahn, and I am the owner and medical director of Arms of Aloha, where we believe every pet deserves peace, comfort, and dignity at the end of their life. If this was useful to you, please share it with your friends. And if you have anything else you'd like to cover, please let me know in the comments. Mahalo.